Oh, why, thank you for the comment about my art. That is very much appreciated. I just drew these right now. These are the newest ones on this page. Tomorrow I might be a little busy, so I don't know when I'll get on to draw because I have my first day of my new job starting up, so I'll be very busy, but yes, I agree with you. And now, I agree, actually, a lot of parents seem to forget to pay attention to what their kids are actually watching, actually reading, like manga and anime and stuff like that, because a friend of mine got into Dr. Blackjack, and that's a manga series. It's an old school manga series, so it's a bit more cartoonish to some degree, but it's considered one of the greatest old time school mangas out there. There's anime on it as well. I think they made it a bit more kiddish, but there's a lot of surgeries that go on in that one because people get hurt and sick and they have to get operated on. So that's one manga I would not have recommended to any kid, but he ended up getting it when he was a kid because his parents did not pay attention to what he was paying attention to. I mean, it's like you can't force your kid to read and watch what you want them to, but you could try to curb them from doing anything that's too adult. Because when I first got into Demon Slayer manga, it was back during some lockdowns before the lockdowns started getting really bad and stuff, and I have like the whole collection up on my shelf there. It says on it that it's for teenagers and adults and stuff because there's a lot of blood and guts going on in that thing. I mean, I love the anime. I saw it. I watched it a little bit on Netflix, the first one. I haven't had a chance to watch the movie, but I've read the whole manga series, so I know how the story is. So I know how it goes. But I mean, I love the manga series. I absolutely adore it. But when I was picking up some of my manga series when they were still coming out and stuff, I saw a kid picking this up. A literal 7-year-old kid, or is it a 12-year-old kid, picking up Demon Slayer manga, and I'm like, and his mum was helping him get it, and I was just thinking, Mother dearest, have you actually paid attention to the ratings that says on behind the manga, because that was definitely not for kiddos. And it still happens sometimes even in movies and stuff, like, I've heard people going on how their parents let them watch Family Guy and The Simpsons when they were kids, and I'm like, especially Family Guy is like the worst one for a kid to watch. That's definitely not something a kiddo should watch. And because there's things going on that should be explained. That it was like adult humor, a lot of adult humor in that, and kids should not watch that. But still, a lot of kids ended up watching it still today. Even with Deadpool, which is a movie that's for adults, both movies, even though the actor himself said, do not bring your kiddos to watch this because it's really violent, still had kids being brought in, and then the parents would complain later on about their kids having nightmares and stuff, and I'm like, well, geez, man, if you're letting your kids go to see stuff like that, same with anime, there is stuff, it's not, if you want your kids to have something safe for kids to watch, check the rating for these things. It's a lot of lazy parenting out there. You are smart. You paid attention to what it is. You know not to let a kid watch certain things and stuff like that. Like one time my parents were visiting one of their adult friends who didn't have any kids, who couldn't have kids or something, and they had some South Park stuff lying around. I was like, oh, can we watch this? And Mom's like, no, because we were like a little kid, and South Park is definitely not for kiddos to watch either. So there's like all kind of animation out there, and so many times it could have come really close. I wasn't even allowed to watch Beetlejuice until a certain age, and this one other ghost movie that I wanted to watch, but my mom only said, no, you're not old enough for that yet, until like I was like in my teens. But Studio Ghibli was definitely more, I would say, if you're going to want to start kiddos on anime and stuff, I would start off with some of the Studio Ghibli ones, like Totoro and Ponyo are definitely for kids, but then there are some that are a bit more for teenagers and adults, depending. So, like, as I said, my mom's a big fan of anime now, too. She likes a lot of Studio Ghibli films. Those are her favorites. So if we want to watch an anime, usually something more in that genre, like a Studio Ghibli, because she appreciates the artwork and the animation and the backgrounds. She's a bit of an art. She likes doing watercolor painting sometimes in her spare time when she's not working and stuff like that. But still, that is what a responsible adult should do, is pay attention. I mean, you can't force your kids to read and watch what you want them to watch, but you can sort of be there and be like, no, you can't watch this one. It's for adults. You will get nightmares. You will get very bad nightmares and stuff. Like, explain to them properly. I mean, they're not stupid, dumb kids, But then again, it's like some fairy tales, people seem to think that's all for kiddos. Technically, fairy tales were not made with kids in mind. Disney just sort of took a lot of them and just went, stripped them up and stuck them back together. But even sometimes, some of the Disney movies sometimes have a bit too much. Well, they're getting very flat these days, some Disney movies. But anyway, even Disney has a lot of problems with some of their stuff too. But I would say anime is definitely not a kiddo thing. I mean, heck, as I said, some cartoons back in the day, like Looney Tunes, Felix the Cat, even that one with the rabbit, a lot of them were kind of violent. They weren't actually stuff for kiddos, like kids safe, wasn't started coming in until like late 90s, maybe 80s, but barely even then, because some of the cartoons from the 80s sometimes were definitely not kiddo safe. Like Invader Zim, for instance, there's a lot of stuff in there I would not have put for kiddos. I mean, seriously, especially in the 50s, 60s. I don't even know if the 70s was when they were first start realizing kiddos, you might want to be a bit more careful with what you have them watching and what reading and stuff like that. But before then, they did not really consider kids' safety that much to some degree. Like, some of the stuff that we have now, we take for granted. But there even is kiddos safety cartoons, because before, all of it was mostly more adults for watching adults, not kiddos. And I mean, heck, some of Disney's old stuff is not so kiddo safe either, like really old stuff. People really should pay attention to what they let their kids watch. Don't just be lazy about it. You have to really pay attention before you let your kids watch. Every show, every movie, every book has some sort of rating on it and will tell you if it's child or kid friendly. Like some will say for teens, some will say for adults. Like if it says for adults, do not let your kid read that. Or pay attention to what the book's about. Read the story yourself or read along with them. Then you'll know what exactly you're in for. Because if you want your kids to be traumatized from certain things, pay attention to what you're having them watch. Because the Coraline movie, I know for sure, is definitely going to be traumatizing kids. And the book, I heard, is even worse. I mean, it's a good thing to read, but I'm like, I've seen the movie, and I'm like, if that's the movie, I don't want to know what the book's about. Because I know they cut some bits out. And I know fairy tales, a lot of them, in some of them, like, people had their heads literally cut off for certain incidents and stuff. Like the Grimm. But I mean, some fairy tales, the kids need some, not too childish either. It depends on the age as well. But, you know, wisdom. As I say with anime, pay attention to what's going on. Because it's definitely, there's some adult genres. It's a wild genre thing. Like cartoons, animation, manga, comics, books, all of that. Nothing is just kids safe anymore. Or was kids safe. Maybe some things are, but you have to pay attention to the rating, because if you're not paying attention, some kid's going to get traumatized and learn things and stuff about life that they shouldn't have. Like, I still hear about people letting their kids watch Family Guy and The Simpsons. Especially how that's going on now lately. That's getting very bloody. Like, some of the jokes are getting not always as bad with The Simpsons. I mean, I remember seeing some of it in a certain preteen era, but my parents wouldn't let me watch that much either, because I actually paid attention to what's going on. But yeah. Sorry it's a long video, but I agree with you. That's the best way to do it. I agree with you, because some anime just isn't.